Hello, my little potato chips. On we march, trying to make this as easy as we can. You saw that I put a thing up on Blackboard that these are only going to be about 20-25 minutes tops because it's taking me hours on end to upload each one because my internet connection is good, but it doesn't support all this. And I really don't want to have to go up my bandwidth to do this, so we're going to keep it to a minimum. First thing I want to say, though, before we even get started with this next part is I'm hoping that we get back on campus at some point because we are not done with the phonics end of things. But what we're going to do, what we want to do is we want to do more hands-on kind of stuff. What we were going to do today, first thing, is a phonics scavenger hunt, but of course we can't do that, so here we are. Before we get into this, you all need to take a step back as future teachers and stop and think about what's going on right now. These children in the schools are looking to the teachers. You have kids who are scared. You don't know what the conversation is at home. However you can reach out to your students as teachers. I know there are a lot of teachers around here who are calling just to talk to the kids so the kids know that the teachers are still there, that the teacher knows the kids are still there. They've making contact with them. Yes, they were all sent home with packets for 2 weeks, but whether they do them or they don't, just like whether you watch these or you don't, I can't control that. There have been edicts come down from the Illinois State Board that the grades cannot be taken on any of the work these children are doing. So what do we do with the juniors who are prepping for ACT, SAT exams for entrance into college? Well, some of this is going to have to be forgiven under the extraordinary circumstances. But these are the kinds of things that make teachers flexible and that you're going to have to deal with. Hopefully, pray to God that not like this, but there are things that will happen that you will have to deal with. The other thing I want to you need to think about is I've seen gobs and gobs of stuff on Facebook about all of these free online teaching resources specifically aimed at parents who are going to be in, but it wouldn't hurt. I'm just saying you might want to also get in on that. Look to see what they have there. Get some ideas. Perhaps you have ideas about what's going on with some of these things, and maybe you can find some things for free right now that you could download and use in your potential classrooms, or get an idea of whether you want to become a member of a certain site or not, because most of these sites are not always free, but right now they are catering to the children who are at home. So just a thought, you might want to think about that. While you're doing that, just be sure that you're stocked up on toilet paper and hand sanitizer. That's just tongue in cheek. Yeah, I don't get it either. So on we march. We will go back to phonics if we don't get back into school, which I think we will. Dr. Meyer does not. I do. We'll hit phonics again. But for right now, we're going to move on a little bit. And we're talking about comprehension, developing comprehension and concepts about books. We've talked about concepts of print, and concepts of books are a lot the same. You read front to back, top to bottom, left to right. But with the concepts of print, we add then with the books the letter recognition that you know when one word stops and another one starts, and the key there is that there's a space between the words. There are periods at the end of sentences, question marks at the end of questions. Children are not born with this information. You have to teach this kind of information. Remember, reading comprehension is nil until they can start reading. Their listening comprehension is way over their reading comprehension because their reading comprehension is non-existent until they can start reading. The end goal of reading is always comprehension. If they're not comprehending what they're reading, it's called that you are barking at the print, calling the words, but they are not reading. They might be able to say the words, but they're not reading if they're not comprehending. So, when we look at concepts about books, the knowledge of that is an important step towards becoming literate. Children have to have books placed in their hands from early on. Don't be fooled, though you know as well as I do, many of your children will not have access to literature of any kind, and they're going to be behind the eight ball even when they get into school. Ideally, about 1,000 books need to be read to a child. Not the child reads, but that they're read to them before he or she comes into kindergarten. That's why you've seen a lot of these library programs have developed around where even very young infants and toddlers are being read to. And around here, they get their picture in the paper when they hit certain milestones. That they've been read these books. The exposure to books helps the child acquire concepts about books so he or she is ready for the experiences in reading and writing. We have to get the books in their hands, but more importantly, we have to show them what's in those books. We have to get them to understand that you read left to right, top to bottom, front to back. That this is a letter, this is a word, this is a sentence. They're not born with that you have to teach that. You need to point the concepts out at every opportunity when you read to them. You read to them, you can use big books. You don't have to use big books. You can do it this way. You can project a book up somewhere and you point out to them that these are quotation marks. Those are quotation marks. This is a period at the end of a sentence. These are ellipses. That means I took part of a sentence. I didn't take the whole sentence. You point all that out and then show them where they are in the books. The repetition of the dialogue familiarizes children with the concepts which they will eventually understand. It's very, very difficult to teach some of these concepts. They have to be shown, not in isolation, but in the text, in the context of the text in which they're being read to or read from. And as you get ready to read, ask them to point out the top and the bottom of the book. Where do you begin reading on a page? Not only will you give the children the opportunity to learn the concepts, but at the same time you can determine which children understand them, which don't, who needs help, and it's down dirty assessment. I have 3 little books in the office that I'm hoping we get to the point where we're back so we can use them. And they develop these exact concepts that kids can tell you, because one page, at the beginning, the pages are fine. They're fine. And you turn the page, and then all of a sudden you realize when you're reading that the first part of the sentence is at the end of the sentence. So it's messed up. And then one page, the print is upside down. And in one page, the picture is upside down. You have to teach kids that. I realize they're simple concepts, but they don't understand them. If I would ask some children to show me a letter up here, they would do this. They would show me a whole word because they don't understand the difference. They have to be taught that. I realize that is inane. It's seemingly inane to us because how hard can that be? They don't get it. Somebody had to teach us, just as we need to teach our students. Big books are effective for developing concepts and print mainly because of their size. I want to give you one caution here with big books. Big books are great. One of the cautions I would give you is using Eric Carle big books. Eric Carle is big because of his illustrations. His big books are good if the children are sitting close to you or they are using them in a group or at a center where they can concentrate on it, because the emphasis with Eric Carle books, like The Very Hungry Caterpillar, is on the illustrations. The print is rather small in his big books. So you just have to watch, and you use them for whatever purpose you need them. As you read the book, you track the print from left to right across the page, top to bottom. The children will see that books are for reading. If you think back to the language experience activity we did together, that language experience activity, one of the big purposes of that is so children can see that what comes out of their mouth can be put on paper. They need to know that these books didn't just magically appear. Someone had to write them. They had to put those words on the paper. They can also see where you begin reading, where you end reading, how you go front to back, top to bottom. They also learn to differentiate the print from the pictures. Children, believe it or not, don't get that. They don't understand that's a deal. They can point to a letter and to a word. They need to be taught that, as I just said. The connection is made that the oral language they hear from their teacher is being read from the print on the page in the book. I realize this sounds so simple. It is so simple. Yes, it is, but they don't get it. They don't understand it. The child learns that the print being read has meaning, and that's why it's being read. There's meaning behind those words. The words are meaning making, and that's why they're in the book.